3.
I keep waiting for the bubble to burst, but Minnesota's good. Here's the other thing. They lead the NFL with 16 sacks, so forget the offense. Every week it's a different player defensively, and they're not even healthy. I keep saying, Kevin O'Connell has coached the reckless out of Sam Darnold. I have 3 different general managers who have always told me, you can win a lot of games with Sam Darnold. There's a lot of people in this league. Bill Belichick talked about it yesterday. Outside of the Jets, everybody likes Darnold, and it's the offensive coaches that like Sam Darnold. Back-to-back home wins. They have hammered the Niners and hammered the Texans. And by the way, I know Brian Flores hurt some feelings in Miami. Is he the best defensive coordinator in the league? I mean, Brock Purdy and C.J. Stroud are good quarterbacks. They both said after they lost to Minnesota, yeah, I saw stuff I've never seen in my life. It's like they saw UFOs. So I think Brian Flores, I know he hurt feelings in Miami. You got to give that guy a head coaching job. You got to consider him. That dude can coach.
No.
Okay. So I've been posting obviously a lot of Minnesota Vikings content over the months, quite frankly. And now that the Minnesota Vikings are playing well and Sam Darnold and all of that, people are just saying a lot of interesting things that I really, really want to comment. First, Minnesota Vikings fans, you are now top 3 according to Colin Cowherd's herd hierarchy. Last week you were 6th. Now you are 3rd. And quite frankly, I think you are the 1st or 2nd best team in the NFL right now. And you're not even full strength. That's just got to be so wildly exciting. You know, this whole idea of waiting for the bubble to pop. Am I the only one that's not waiting for some random bubble to pop? Because I don't see it as this team to be a bubble that will burst. I see this team being incredibly resilient despite being full strength and beating really, really good and great teams. Okay? I mean, so this idea that they're just kind of getting by on bubblegum and dreams and butterflies and rainbows, I just think is like nonsense at this point. And so the fact that it's still being doubted, and I'm not saying that Colin is, because Colin was way higher on the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold than virtually anyone else out there in the media. And so it's just so fascinating to see people still doubt, like, they were talking about it on First Things First, that Sam Darnold's on pumpkin watch, and you got Sam Darnold like at the bottom for quarterback ratings and all of this, and that he's really not that good, and yada yada yada. And it's just kind of crazy because Sam Darnold has been a top quarterback in the NFL, no question about it. And Kevin O'Connell consistently proves how great of a coach he is. This roster construction has proven to be lethal, as well as Brian Flores. And that was something that I even overlooked, quite frankly. I have a harder time judging defensive coordinators personally. That's just me personally. I always want to be as honest as I can versus offensive minded and offensive coaches. My mind just works a little bit more like that. So it was definitely something that even I personally overlooked. And that's what's so exciting, that if you really have the defensive coordinating taken care of as well, and now you can really come with some great defensive game plans going into the playoffs, the Super Bowl, right, against the top quarterbacks in the NFL. If you could just slow them down, because that's really the goal in the playoffs. It's not necessarily to be able to shut them down. You're not trying to shut down Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy. I'm just naming quarterbacks right now. Don't get lost in the names, right? Like you're never always going to be able to slow them down, especially come time playoff, or shut them down come time playoffs. But if you can slow them down, right? Slow them down. That's what the Chiefs were able to do. They slowed Lamar Jackson down. They slowed Josh Allen down. They slowed the 49ers and Brock Purdy down. And that's enough for them to be like, all right, we're going to win now. We're going to scoot forward and take the trophy, get the rings. And that's now what you're setting up the Minnesota Vikings to do. You're also now setting them up because, again, I'm thinking big picture. If you are really slowing these other teams down, or even, dare I say, shutting them down, again, you're now giving Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold and the rest of the offensive pieces just a complete blank canvas to work with. Right? I mean, you're just giving them, you're opening up the playbook for them. You're allowing them to be a little bit more conservative, to be able to take risks and shots, but do it in a way where the stakes are lower, right? So it's like, it doesn't feel as dire. We see that all the time with some of these teams that come up short. It's like they have to really push it and really try to do everything they can just to get there, just to be within range. And if when you have a great defense, you don't need to do that. Think about how that's how the Chiefs were able to play all last year, and especially in the playoffs, right? There was never any desperation for the Chiefs, and they were able to be very smart and strategic with their play calling, even with an offense that wasn't as strong in years past. And here, the Minnesota Vikings are in a position to have a great defense that can put them in that position, but also have a great offense that then brings this all home. So, I mean, like, this is just, to me, this is shaping up to be one of the most wild stories in the NFL, right? I mean, the Vikings are just rolling right now, and Sam Darnold, and make no mistake about it, they're going to face adversity. They're not going to go undefeated. They're going to get a bad loss. Sam Darnold's going to take, have a bad game or two, but that's just, that's football. So, the fact that the Minnesota Vikings still have all this momentum week 3, and yet people are still talking about this bubble popping, or they then say, oh, this is what the Minnesota Vikings do all the time. They start off strong and then they crash and burn. And it's like how far back are we going now? Are we talking about the 80s, the 90s, the zeros? Are we talking about, what happened over the last few years? Like what are we talking about? Right? Because it just doesn't really make sense. This is a different team. Even though there's some of the same coaches, some of the same players, it's a different team. It's a more mature team. It's a more experienced team. So this whole idea of what they've done in the past is such a strong indicator of what they will do in the present and the future. I just completely reject. It's just nonsense, quite frankly. It really, really is. So this idea that people love to kind of just do that makes very little sense to me. It would make a little bit more sense if it was a very similar team, if it was the same coach, quarterback, running back, like if it was just like the heart, the nucleus of the team was the same, and we were seeing them do this while they were all in their prime, and not when they were really young, not when they were all just kind of getting their start, right? Like this was like the nucleus of who they are, which is like, kind of gives me the feeling of like kind of the Dallas Cowboys, that nucleus, the Mike McCarthy, the Dak Prescott, Micah, CD, right? We've seen them fail consistently, right? And it's like, well, the nucleus is still there. No, they're not all a bunch of just young guns, right? Dak Prescott's in his prime. Mike McCarthy's not a new wide-eyed coach, right? So it's like, it makes a little bit more sense to use their past failures as an indicator, or just to give you maybe a lack of trust in what they will be able to do moving forward. That's not the case with the Vikings. Okay, you have a more experienced head coach now than you did a couple years ago, because he was a new coach, right? And coaches learn and grow themselves, right? You have a better defense than you have had in years past, right? You have a quarterback now who is playing at the top of his game and is way more mobile than Kirk Cousins ever was, right? And throughout his entire career. So there's just things that this team can do that they weren't able to do. Jefferson, Addison, right? TJ, like you're talking about players now that are either new to the party, or are entering their prime at the right time. So it's just like you have all the perfect causes and conditions. And Mark Sanchez put it perfectly weeks ago, maybe even months ago at this point, where he said the Minnesota Vikings are built to win now. And I said I agree with that, and I talked all about it. And some people in the comments were like, that's nonsense. That's nonsense. That's not true. And it's like, well, it's shaping up to be true right now, right? So they have a couple really big games coming up, and it's going to be really exciting to see how they play. I want to see them play, because I've obviously seen them be dominant. I've obviously seen them beat a really great team. I've seen them beat a bad team. I want to see a duel, a back and forth. They go up by 7, they're down by 7, they're up by 7, it's tied, they're up by 3, they're down by 4, right? Like however it unfolds. Like I want to see a real nail biter, right? I want to see Sam Darnold feel the heat, feel the pressure. Kevin O'Connell, Flores, like I want to see everyone be like, our backs are up against the wall. And I think it would be better to experience that sooner rather than later, right? You want to see them kind of even make some mistakes, rise to the occasion, make some mistakes, then overcome those mistakes. Something all teams need to learn how to do, because some younger teams are just, just not great teams, they make a mistake and they're just like, this is over, it's done, we're failing, oh my God, and it unravels. The greats make mistakes and overcome them. Patrick Mahomes has 5 interceptions and 4 Super Bowls. It shows that he's great at overcoming. He's got a short-term memory loss and is just boom, out on to the next play. And that's something great, because we see plenty of other quarterbacks completely unravel, and teams as a whole. So I that's the next thing that I really want to see the Minnesota Vikings do, right? Win this big, intense back-to-back. It doesn't even have to be a high-scoring game, quite frankly. It could be 10-9. Like, it just needs to feel uncomfortable. You need to feel, wow, the Vikings can really lose this game right now. And I don't even necessarily even need to see them win, quite frankly. I just need to see them be able to compete, to be able to give you the feeling that they are in this game, that they can still win it, that it's a chance, that it's going to come down to who has the ball last, right? Where does the ball bounce? Do you need a field goal to win it, or just a tie it, a touchdown, whatever it may be? So that's kind of the next thing that I'm looking to see for the Vikings, to have them take an even bigger step forward. Of course, as well as just get a little bit healthier, so we can actually truly see what this team looks like full strength. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings being third on Colin's herd hierarchy? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.